And we are recording. Welcome, Dr. Suzanne Henwood, to our not live, but kind of live love seat interview today. I'm Morna Haist, everyone, and I'm tuning in from the west coast of British Columbia, Canada. And Suzanne, where are you joining us from today?
I'm joining from Auckland, New Zealand. Kia ora.
Beautiful. Kia ora, everyone. And Suzanne lives in my old hometown of Titirangi. Yeah. It's Titirangi. Okay.
Where else can you live? Where else can you live?
Well, here on the west coast of British Columbia, it's kind of like Titirangi, except a big scale, like Canadian scale version of Titirangi here on the side of the mountain. I want to give you a proper introduction before we get stuck in, Suzanne, because there's some cool stuff here about you. So I want to share it. Dr. Suzanne Henwood is an MBIT master trainer, NLP trainer, a practitioner of havening, ACT, heart-mouth, IDT, mindfulness, timeline therapy, and its qualifications in the map of meaning. I'm really curious about that, actually. Solution-focused brief therapy, refocusing counseling, hypnotherapy, Psych-K, polyvagal informed therapy, everything. You began your professional life as a diagnostic radiographer in the UK, and through some twists and turns, ended up as Associate Professor of Health and Social Sciences in New Zealand. And along the way, you've had some pretty significant life experiences, and which have given you the gift of being able to put what you've learned into practice, including toxic and bullying work environments. I'm going to try not to be smiling too much when I'm saying these pieces. That's right. The toxic and bullying work environments, losing everything in a house fire and having a stroke. And you live in Auckland with your husband of 32 years, 2 kids, one of whom I've met. She's amazing. And you practice as a stress and anxiety coach, trainer, writer, published author, radio contributor, international speaker, all around unbelievably amazing woman. Suzanne's also been one of my teachers. I've been privileged enough to be taught by Suzanne, and I'm just super, super excited to have you joining, being with our community. And as I shared with you earlier, I'll share this as a watch party. So it will kind of be live. I can track people's comments in real time, but I really actually want to pick up with Suzanne and I were kind of doing a little pre-show, I guess, behind the scenes in the green room, doing the interview before the interview, and you were sharing with me your recent kind of health crisis. And if it's okay with you, I want to start there.
Sure.
Because I'm really curious about your experience, and I'm really curious about what it's meant for your work and how you show up and everything that you do.
So just a starter for 10.
Just a starter for 10. Let's just go in with the big one. Like, why not? Stop muck around.
Yeah. The irony is I'm a stress and anxiety coach, and I wholly believe that the whole health event that I had was related to stress.
Wow.
And I've come through lots of other stressful environments and not had physical issues as such. The house fire, we did the whole thing stress-free using the tools that I teach other people. And so it kind of threw me that this would literally overwhelm my physical body. 2 things in parallel going on, I think. One was a massive grief. So somebody who I dearly loved, was a friend, a mentor, called me a sister. The developer of MBraining, Grant Suzulu, died in June 2019. And I had the privilege of spending a week with him before he died, picking up, how to run the business, how to keep MBraining going, and all things associated with that, but also just being with him and holding the hand of a dying man, leading a meditation, praying with him. I can't even begin to express the closeness, the depth of conversations we had. Him sharing his vision for MBraining with me, that's recorded for prosperity, that we have, and also still believing at that point that healing was possible, that he was flying off to Germany for some, world-leading treatment, and we truly hoped and prayed that he was going to be healed. So I thought I would see him again. So that had happened. It was a major, major impact on me. And then alongside of that, some very toxic, unpleasant behaviors by a small number of people that I can only see now as I read literature around bullying, gaslighting, mobbing, narcissism traits even, all of that was reflected in behaviours aimed towards me. And yeah, I dropped like a stone, to put it bluntly. So I was due to be training in my beautiful house, home of Titirangi, and had people from, gosh, Hong Kong, South Africa, America, Australia, New Zealand flying in, and I knew I didn't feel well. Wow. I had been to the GP a couple of weeks before going, I don't know what's going on. I feel almost hypochondriac. There's nothing specific, but there's this, and this. And I think they're all unrelated. And she said, look, I never see you, so I'm taking this seriously. And she had started sending me for checkups at different places, and nothing particular showed up, a little bit of arthritis, and minor stuff. The only thing that really showed was high blood pressure. And then I had a Saturday night where I woke up with chest pain. And me being me, I'm like going, okay, what was that? What is that? Because I was in the moment of it. Is it significant? Do I need to do anything about it? Health check, ladies. The signs and symptoms of heart conditions are completely different in women. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they are.
So I missed a lot of it. And within 6 or 7 minutes, I had breathed myself through the pain and didn't even wake my husband up and went back to sleep. Heading back to the GP a couple of days later for my final blood pressure check, and she said, how have I been? And my husband insisted on coming with me to make sure I told her the story. And I told her, and she said, why on earth did you not just ring the ambulance? Well, because I was fine. I breathed through it. It went away. And she went through a whole list of things that you'd expect with heart attack. Did you have this? Did you have that? Did you have pain down your left arm? Did you have? And I went, no. And she was just walking out the door to ring a cardiologist and to set up my ECG. And she said, did you have any jaw pain? And I went, oh, I did. And she said, right, that's it, straight to hospital kind of thing. And I didn't know jaw pain was a sign of heart attack in women. And I'd been to the dentist that day. So I just kind of ignored it because I thought, well, that's odd because I've been checked out today, had my yearly check, everything's fine. Makes sense. Anyway, so went in, was fully checked out. They said, yes, the heart was beating too fast. Yes, the blood pressure was high, but it wasn't a heart attack, and they discharged me. And then I had this course coming up. And I thought, I cannot let people down, flying in from all down the world. Master trainer. I'm, one of only 2 people in the world that can train this. The other person was in Europe. So anyway, I set up a couple of backups. I had somebody else in the room to assist me. And I had my beautiful business partner, Sarah Crothers, who is not qualified to run this, but could have held the space if need be. And she was kind of on call if I needed her. I did the first 3 days. I was fine, a little bit tired, but I was fine. On day 4, somebody handed me something to read, and I looked at it, and it was printed sheet. And then literally as I was looking at it, the whole of the right-hand side of the sheet disappeared and was blank paper. And I, again, typical, I kind of shook my head and closed my eyes and went, oh, that was odd. Looked again, it wasn't back. And said, I'll look at it later. We're in a tea break, so I'll look at it for you later. Sat at the front for an open frame. Someone asked me a question and no language came. And I think they thought I was fooling around and messing. And so I laughed, they laughed, but I thought I can't get my words out. And I looked at my lovely assistant and kind of nodded, and he started answering the question. And then I thought I was okay. And I went to answer something, but the word that came out wasn't the word that I had in my head. And so I just excused myself, went and sat, breathed, calmed myself down, and thought, what do I do? Still didn't know at that point that that was a stroke. And rang beautiful Sarah at lunchtime and said, can you come fly up and be here just in case this has happened? So she did. She arrived later that afternoon. The next day I trained without any problem whatsoever. Nothing. All my language was back. My vision was back. I said to her, apologies, I've brought you up for nothing. And then the next morning I got up and I was breathless and I just didn't feel right. And I walked to the place, knew I wasn't right, kind of said to her, just in case I don't make it through today, here's where everything is. Here's what needs to happen. Here's all the notes. Here's everything you need. And she's so amazing. She just stepped in. And I started getting really severe chest pain, couldn't catch my breath, couldn't stand up, and got ambulanced into hospital. You've gone quiet. Have we lost connection? I've lost you.
Lost connection.
Yeah. Oh, are you back? Sounds like you're back now.
Just pause the control. So what had happened, Suzanne? Did you have a stroke and a heart attack?
Well, medical notes, yes and no. So yes, medical notes, I have had a stroke and I'm being treated for a stroke, and I'm not convinced. And did I have a heart attack? No, not in its traditional form, but I had changes to my ECG. My pulse rate was absolutely racing, and they couldn't get it down, and there were all sorts of other things going on. And so nominally what they've suggested it might be is something called cardiac spasm, which is where the artery goes into spasm and closes it off. So you get all the signs of a heart attack, but once they open that artery again, or once it relaxes, then all the symptoms kind of get relieved. Although a year and a half on, I've still been having a fair few, minor niggly symptoms. So I'm in slight disagreement with the medical team about what it was. I think it was all stress and grief and my autonomic nervous system going into absolute overwhelm. I think the reason I'm questioning the stroke as well is if your cardiac artery can go into spasm, then surely other arteries can too. And there was no evidence of a bleed or a block on the scans in my head. So yes, something happened for sure, but I'm not convinced it was a stroke. I think it was stroke-like symptoms caused by, again, that spasm in the artery.
So let's talk about through the lens of what you do, and let's introduce in the concept of MBraining, the concept of multiple brains, talk a little bit about the ANS, and just bring that information in for folks so that we can look at it through that lens.
Yeah, so all of the tools I use in my box are research underpinned, evidence-based, and many of them neuroscience basis, but neuroscience in its widest sense of the word, not just a head brain neuroscience.
That's right. Yeah.
And so we're all familiar with the head brain. We know it thinks, we know it analyzes, we know it plans, it makes meaning, it creates story, as you've just heard me create a story around that. Those stories are not always true, but we believe them to be true because it helps us understand what's happened. So head brain, we're all very familiar with. Heart brain, we're probably familiar with at some level, but may not know the kind of pure science behind it. And HeartMath is probably the world leader in setting the heart brain up as a brain. Andrew Armour, one of the leading cardiologists in that. And we talk about the heart brain having three prime functions, one of which is emoting, how we feel, one of which is values, what's important to us, and one of which is connecting to others. And if anyone listening is going, really, is that true? I just invite them to feel into, think of, bring to mind, bring to heart, someone they love. So a partner, a child, a parent, sibling, whatever, someone they love. And you've already put your hands where you're feeling that. And I would ask them to feel into that. Where are they feeling it? And I can guarantee you, nobody will go, in my limbic brain.
Yes.
So, of course, the limbic brain and the amygdala have a role to play, but the initiation of that signal is at the heart level. it sends the information up through the vagus nerve into the head brain for processing and reacting to. So we work directly with the heart brain and what it desires, what it truly desires, what it feels. And then the gut brain, again, 3 prime functions, one of which, not going to surprise you, I think, at all. Safety, security. Anyone who's ever done any crazy stuff like a bungee jump in New Zealand will know that when they're standing on the edge of that ledge, they feel it in their gut. We feel fear in the gut. We hold courage in the gut. Whether or not you take action, do you jump? Don't you jump? Do you procrastinate? Do you get things done? Do you set, New Year's resolutions in the head, but do you ever take action on them? So taking action is gut brain. And then the last gut brain is identity, core identity, who you deeply, deeply are. And so that model informs everything that I do, underpins all the other models that I now use. But it changes where I ask questions, both in myself and for other people. And as a master coach in MBraining, we include the autonomic nervous system as a adaptive intelligence in its own right. It's not so universally researched as a brain yet, but there's undisputable evidence that it can learn and that it has intelligence. And this starts to
say more about this.
Yeah, this starts to get really interesting.
I'm getting some feedback.
Can you still hear me?
I can. Go for it.
Okay. So the autonomic nervous system was often thought of as the wiring between the brains. So it will take your message up from the gut, up from the heart into the head. The vagus nerve is very well studied these days. Most people know 80% of the information goes up, not down. What a lot of people don't realize is that information comes directly into the autonomic nervous system as well, and that it has a far wider reach of where it takes in information from, through environmental cues, through electromagnetic radiation, through chemical stimuli. And so it has information that some of the other intelligences don't have. So when the gut passes a message upwards through the autonomic nervous system decides what to pass on and whether or not to change the message. So for me, that changes everything. And so often when people get stuck, and even with MBraining coaching, sometimes they will not quite resolve an issue, it's probably because the issue sits in the autonomic nervous system, not in one of the 3 original brains.
Wow. I keep wanting somebody to send me like a mic that I can actually drop for moments like this, but so far I've just got my marker pens that I continue to drop. Just fascinating. I mean, I'm leaning in, and as an MBraining practitioner myself, I see direct evidence for what you're talking about constantly, and I'm curious. I've got some questions for folks who are just hearing these things for the first time, maybe.
Yeah.
Is there actual brain material that we would think is brain material in the gut and the heart?
Absolutely. So it doesn't look like the head brain. The head brain looks a bit like a walnut, that right. very traditional shape. The neurons around the heart and the gut are more diverse and more widespread, but still numerous. So the head brain at the moment, different research, but people are saying around 84 billion neurons in the head brain. So by far the biggest in terms of number. And then, of course, the connection between them makes it even bigger. The heart brain up to about 120,000, so much, much smaller, but is a control point in the whole system. So it controls and monitors and regulates the autonomic nervous system. So the heart is key. And the gut, about 500 million neurons, which for any cat or dog lovers is about the size of a cat or dog's brain. And we know how well we can train dogs. And we know how well cats can train us.
Yeah, that's so fascinating. And okay, I'm just having like a moment, because where to go next? I think it's so okay, here's where I want to go. This, for so many of us, for us as a human species, this just opens up so many different possibilities, so much more for us, that we're not just this, that just happens to be attached to a body that keeps us alive or whatever, in service of this,
Absolutely.
right? That we're a system. And it's interesting as you speak, and one of the reasons why I was attracted to MBraining in the first place, also as an NLP master practitioner, is it felt like an evolution to me.
Yes.
It felt like a growth edge of this work. And it also just intuitively made sense. Like, well, kind of course, because I think we can all relate to these experiences that we've had. But going back to your story that you were sharing, it's so interesting how we filter our experiences through the lens of what we think things are.
Yeah.
That, I might have a gut feeling about it, but is that something real? Or is that just something that we've made up? No, it's something real. How do we develop a relationship with our other brains?
Yeah, I think gently, profoundly, with skilled help. So just to finish my story and put the good news spin on it, it's been 18 months and I have had numerous other tests and I'm supposedly on drugs for life. And I had this absolute internal knowing that whatever was going on was in my ANS. It wasn't a heart condition. It wasn't a head-based stroke condition. It was an autonomic nervous system condition. And there's not many medical practitioners that are working with that level. But I had to find someone I trusted, because this was a life and death situation. I didn't know if I was going to survive it. So I'm not going to play with that in any unsafe way. And recently I ran a master coach program here, and the most beautiful lady is on that, who I used for coaching after the event using havening, which is another brilliant tool. And she had havened and got me to a point where I healed some of the trauma of the going into hospital, healed some of the fear. But now she's also a master coach of MBraining. And I said to her again, hey, look, I still have these niggly symptoms. So my pulse rate will still race to 150 a minute for no reason. I have what's called atrial couplets, where the beat it kind of does two together and then a gap, and all sorts of little things that are not quite right. My blood pressure is still too high. I haven't been able to get myself into coherence for 18 months easily. And I said to her, would she be willing to come round and do like a really serious session with me, working directly with my autonomic nervous system to heal whatever it is that is still there? And she did that yesterday with me. And I felt shifts in my body while she was there. Wasn't sure if anything physiologically had shifted, but I certainly felt my body had shifted a little bit. My thinking shifted a bit. Overnight, 4 o'clock this morning, wide awake, kind of reintegrating the learning, processing. We know the gut takes a while to integrate. So that was no surprise to me that doing that level of work, I would wake with the gut still processing that. And I had a beautiful hour or so in the night where, with my own skills, I carried on that work. I carried on talking to the ANS. I had a beautiful conversation with my soul, with my dad who died when I was 15, with God. I have a very strong Christian faith. And I managed to do loving kindness meditation on these people who have just behaved diabolically to me for a long time. And I've been doing it for a long time, but I've been doing it by rote rather than from heart. Right. And for the first time I did it from heart and genuinely meant, I wish you well. I don't know what's going on in your lives, but I wish you well, but I'm not going to be part of it. And I drifted off into this most beautiful restorative sleep for another 3 or 4 hours. And I woke this morning, my normal day, cup of tea, iPad, clearing Facebook. And I thought, something feels a little bit different. Could it possibly have changed my physiology? So I logged myself into my heart rate plus monitor, and for the first time in 18 months, my pulse rate's back down in the 70s. I went, whoa, plugged myself into the coherence checker, and within 2 minutes was up above 70%, which I haven't been able to do for so long. And then I thought, seriously, I'll get my blood pressure machine out. And although it's not right back into normal, it's significantly dropped. So it's dropped from about 160 to 130, down to 90 at the bottom figure. So not quite there, but pretty damn close in one session.
And it's kind of blowing my mind that this just happened as well. I mean,
it's still blowing mine. I'm still like going, is it, was the machine not working properly? It's something different today, but I feel differently. So I know it's not,
It's amazing. And I've got a curious question to ask you. Why now?
A good question, actually. Why did I put myself through that for 18 months? Why didn't I do it 18 months ago?
Well, that wasn't the question, but but that's the one that you've got. I love it.
I kind of have to ask that question of myself, right?
Of course.
And I had done some work over the time, and I'd made little steps and little improvements, but it was more a plaster, a coping than an actual healing.
Right.
So I guess there was something about now the time was right. The other thing is, that I have had to make a big decision in relation to it this week. And having made that decision, there was that space, I guess, to kind of go, okay, decision made and it's the right decision. And therefore I can, breathe again. Literally, I felt like there was something surrounding my heart and constricting it. That's what we were working on yesterday.
Wow.
And that's gone, and it's now moving and it's flexible and I can breathe again. And so why now? Number of things, but I guess right time, my body ready, universe ready. Combination of things.
And I love everything you're saying here, because I do, I notice this a lot in my work and my work for people and in my own work. Things happen in right timing for sure, and often we can't force an outcome, because we're not ready. We're not ready for it. Our body's not ready. And so I love that, because I think that there's also, and I actually just want to speak this out loud, because a lot of women express this to me when they're working with me, especially if they're coaches, if they're teachers, if they have these tools, and they'll say some version of, how can I teach this when I've got X, Y, Z going on?
Yeah.
I would love to invite you to speak to that.
Yeah, I get it. I totally get it. And I think there's a balance in that. I think there are some times when you have to go, actually, I'm not in the right place to coach, and be really honest with yourself. And there are other times when, as long as you're aware of it and you're managing it and you're self-regulating and able to co-regulate, that you can still safely coach. But I'm a firm believer of high standards in coaching, of supervision in coaching. And I think that's a conversation, if you're feeling that, or even a vague thought around it, is to take that to supervision and check it out before you have a client in front of you.
Yeah, I agree. And for folks who aren't familiar with the term supervision, because I think it's sort of, I come from a clinical background as well as social work background, so I get that through that lens. It means having somebody that you can go to kind of process and unpack your own practice. Yeah. And I think it's essential, and I think it's actually something that's missing from the coaching world in general, that supervision is super important for all kinds of reasons. And I think the lens that I bring to it is that is for us not to beat ourselves up for being humans, having a human experience. We're all on some level of this journey, and I think there's a difference between being perfect and being an excellent coach, being a perfect human and being a master coach, if that makes a sense. Like, none of us are ever going to be perfect humans, if you know what I mean, who don't have anything going on in our lives or in our bodies or which is the point of these tools.
Yeah.
To help.
For me, my goal is not to be a perfect human. I have no aspiration to be a perfect human. I do have an aspiration to be real and authentic.
Yes.
And genuine and honest and have integrity, and work at as close to mastery level as I can, where I am continually growing, learning, and open to the fact that the more I think I know, the more I realize I don't know.
This is it. And this is it. And I'd love to riff off that. I had such a profound experience myself in my own learning journey of being invited into kind of a global masters group, of people who are kind of at the mastery level in the world at what they do. And the very first thing that the obviously uber master teachers there was kind of like cut us off at the knees. Oh, you think you're a master? Where's your beginner's mind? Reconnecting us into true masters are curious about how things can be different and what is our next growth edge.
Yeah.
True masters aren't kind of sitting around going, well, I'm a master now. Because life has a habit of showing us our next growth edge, doesn't it?
Yeah. And the other phrase I love, which I take from Grant, is wisdom comes from multiple perspectives. And so anyone that thinks they can do one technique really well and be a master, again, is kind of delusional in my mind. And so, I very much work to ensure my qualifications go across a range of different perspectives. Even after I had learned MBraining and was a master trainer in MBraining, I went on a neuro coach course, which is very head-based, just so I understood what I didn't know about how they were kind of selling neuro coaching as head-based only.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not only even learning, because some people go, oh yeah, I keep learning, but what they're doing is keep learning things that support their existing beliefs.
Yes. And actually, we were just talking about this today in the dojo. We were talking about the ladder of inference. I don't know if you're familiar with that model. And it basically says in a nutshell that we selectively see what we see based on what we think we already know, and we seek evidence that's going to reinforce us. And we were actually talking about Facebook as a perfect example, and the Facebook algorithm, which as soon as we tell it what we like, it will keep showing us more of that, which then reinforces that loop and reinforces our idea that everyone thinks this way because this is what I'm seeing. No, it's not what the person next to you is seeing.
Absolutely right.
So I think that for me, so many of these tools are ways of creating a pattern interrupter in our habitual ways of showing up and seeing the world. Why should we be concerned with the fact that we have multiple brains? What does this really mean for us as humans, and what does it open up for us in terms of our ability to break through places that we're stuck? Or okay, those were lots of questions. I'll let you answer whatever you like.
Which one would you like?
any of them.
Yeah, I mean, if I look at my own history, I came through a very medical model, diagnostic radiography, then into education, very kind of curriculum-led thinking. Into an associate professor, research, critical thinking, but there was still walls within that you had to think within, behave within, critique within. And I remember when I first did my first ever MBIT coach cert as a student, and this lovely lady who I didn't know at that point looked at me at one point and said, "You're a friggin' head on legs." I was quite offended, and I was quite defensive, and I kind of said, but I'm quite an effective head on legs, thank you very much. Look at my CV, you look at my books, you look at, and I had no idea that I was living my life with such a head dominance. And it wasn't that I didn't have a heart or a gut, but whether it was, socialization in the workplaces I was in, whether it was personality, upbringing, who knows, but I was absolutely head brain dominant. And I still now have a head brain preference. So you'll often hear it in my language as I go to answer something. I'll give you, linguistics around head brain, and often use my head as a way into heart and gut. But that head still shows strong. So for me, why is this important? Is because if we're only living our lives with 1/5 of the intelligence that we can live with, which is the head brain, what are we missing out on?
Yeah.
And particularly the heart, that is the seat of all those beautiful feelings. And so many people guard their hearts, cut their hearts off because they've been hurt and it's too painful. without realizing that then what you do is flatline, because you also cut off the joy, the love, the peace, the compassion, and all those beautiful other emotions. Yeah. So for me, it's about, how do I live my life fully? How do I have vitality in what I do? How do I make a difference in the world? Because I have a strong Christian faith, and this all fits beautifully. It's been a huge spiritual journey for me as well, learning who God made me to be. And we're way more amazing in creation than we have maybe been led to believe.
Wow, right. That was really what was coming through for me as you were speaking. For me, it feels like an invitation into more of our whole human experience. And I find we have this preference for certain emotions. Well, I want to feel the joy, but I don't want to feel the grief. I want to feel this, but not that. All of these emotions have something to share with us and teach us. And I think for me, this invitation, and I feel that in my heart right now, I really truly feel it, that there's just such a rich landscape available to us if we're willing to connect, and so much more information available. And it also, I think, normalizes some of the stuff that I think we intuitively know as humans, but we may have forgotten because of the way we've constructed our world and the way we've been taught to walk through it, that we discount our gut instinct. We discount these feelings. And I think if I remember correctly, the gut brain was the one we developed first, right? Like it's our...
Yeah, embryologically it's there before even the heart, although the heart one is the first to be fully functional. But yeah, the gut brain is the first one to be in existence, which is partly why it links to identity. Because you exist or you don't exist. The gut takes in food and decides what becomes part of you and what doesn't become part of you.
Everyone's getting used to my... everyone knows
keep throwing pens at me.
Yeah, I know. Okay. Like, I feel like I want to stop the, like, a triple whammy of all the ones firing off. Wow, I had truly, really never stopped to really take in that idea that our gut brain literally chooses what we become.
Absolutely. And then if I really want to blow your world, you go, well, actually, what else is in the gut brain are more bacteria than there are cells in your body. And they're also controlling who you become and what you crave and whether or not you have mental health conditions.
So as I could definitely talk to you all day, and we're not, man, I wish we were live, but we're not, but we'll put it on replay and it'll seem like we're live. And okay, come back. Firstly, I want to ask a couple of questions. If I know that there are definitely going to be folks in my community who are curious about this field of study, who want to know more about MBraining, which stands for multiple brains, by the way, just in case anyone hadn't picked that up. Who are curious about this, who maybe want to become a certified coach, who want to understand this more, who want to understand it for themselves first and foremost. And I think, when I became an NLP master practitioner, it was for me first.
Yeah.
How can people find out about it? How can they work with you and all of those things?
Awesome. So mbrainingforsuccess.com is my website, and you can certainly connect with me through there. There's also a free ebook on there, so feel free to head in and download it. It gives you some of the science behind it, and it might settle that head brain curiosity for understanding what I'm talking about. But there's lots of other places as well. So in COVID, a small group of us who shared values and have a real passion for healing the world put together a website called MBrainingtheworld.com, and it is absolutely full of free resources for stress and anxiety, from meditations to mindful coloring to readings out of Grant's original book, which is called MBraining, not surprisingly, have a copy right next to me.
If I be, mine's in the cupboard behind here, everyone. Then I go grab it.
Yeah. So it's just a free. We don't even collect data, emails, nothing. It's just a gift to the world. There then is also a really exciting adventure that I'm on at the moment called MBrainingGlobal.com, where again I'm bringing together people who share my values, who share my passion for the science, who want to ensure we stay at the cutting edge. Because some people get to a point of proficiency and they're all right with that. They don't want to move any further. That to me wasn't what attracted me to MBraining. The words cutting edge neuroscience are what attracted me to MBraining. So I feel I have a responsibility to keep it at the cutting edge. Grant is no longer with us. I had the privilege of researching with him for 5 or 6 years. We've got a few publications together. So there's this one, if you want to know more about it in the coaching realm. And then, MBraining Global is us pulling that together. And very soon we're going to go live with the world's first multiple brain psychometric tool to show which brain to use in decision making. It's taken us about 5 years of study. We've got a published paper in Sage Open, highly credible research publication, and shown that the tool is valid and reliable. And Sarah and I and a wonderful guy called Andrew, we've taken that forward and developed it as an online tool that people will be able to buy licenses for and give to their coaches or staff members, team members. It's just, I'm going to say it's freaking amazing. And I'm so proud of what we've developed, and it's taken so long. So that will be coming through on MBraining Global. But on MBraining Global already exists, because I did this big talk last year to the embodiment conference. 500,000 people registered. And so it was like, well, how can we feed people into coaching?
Sorry, did you say 500,000 people?
I did. What a privilege, eh? What a privilege.
Amazing.
So that talk is up on MBraining Global if you want to read it. And then I was privileged to, what they did was handpick 3 people as exemplars of how to teach embodied coaching. And I was one of those. And that was as a separate panel then. So that panel interview is also up on that website. That one you have to register with, and you can register either as a, MBIT coach or as just a user exploring, looking for coaches. But that will be the place that I will be doing all my updating, cutting edge, where I share research, where I share that stuff. But it will link you in with some coaches who share my values, some trainers that share my values, so you can find out more. And my door's always open, right? So if you just want to contact me directly and go, who would you recommend in this country, or where would you go for coaching or training, feel free, come to me. And if you like my values and what I stand for, then I can direct you to other people like me.
Brilliant. I'm going to invite you to, I'll tag you into the video when I post it so that you can make sure that the correct links are there. Sure. Because I'm just so absorbed in you, I'm not writing stuff down. Because
so can I
that's
share
how my brains work.
Because I had another baby last year. This was my latest baby.
Oh, yes, I love this. Yes.
So my heart goes out to kids growing up in a world where we're so head-based and we're so traumatized, and we're in a global pandemic and they don't feel safe. And so it was a real introduction to the concept of MBraining in a fun activity book. And of course, we need one for teenagers as well, and we need others. Sarah and I have just written a gratitude journal for adults, a multiple brain gratitude journal that's just about to come out. Watch this space, because there's more and more stuff coming out.
I just want to say, so folks watching, I did my MBIT certification with Suzanne in, I'm going to say 2015. I think it was 2015. I think it was the year before. It was in Titirangi. We were in the thing, and it was one of the first ones. It feels to me like it was one of the first ones. I'm going to say it was one of the first ones because it sounds like, because I like that. And I feel an enormous amount of pride and gratitude to you for this just unbelievable body of work that you've continued to grow, and your unbelievable commitment to leadership in this space just blows me away. And thank you so much. I mean, you've surprised me. I had no idea that it had gone this way. I just was like, cool, I got this cool new tool. It's so cool, and I'll just go and be cool with it. It just blows me away, and it does feel like the cutting edge. It feels like the 21st century. It feels like the future of our species.
Yeah.
When we're actually able to, yeah.
And that's what Grant was about. This is about how to be human. And his vision for MBraining was and is to create a world that's more wise and compassionate by changing the structure of every brain on the planet.
Wow.
How could you not want to be part of that, right? But, and I will put out a but, and this is going to, really get under some people's skin, but make sure that when you get involved in anything that is MBraining or claims to be MBraining, that's what it's about.
Right.
Because we have other people who have taken material and called it something different. We have people who have not really embraced Grant's vision. So yeah, if you want to do the MBraining I'm talking about, just ask some due diligence questions.
Yeah, brilliant. Dr. Suzanne Henwood, what an absolute joy and privilege to have this conversation with you today. I feel more connected. I feel hopeful. I feel it's so awesome to talk with someone who has all of the pieces, and you do, and there's such robustness around this work, and I really do want to talk to you all day, and I feel like I now want to have it's the Suzanne show, and I love it. And I think
come and join us on MBraining Global. Get yourself up on there. We're going to put it out as a membership site soon, because it's cost a lot of money to put it together. There's going to be loads of support on there. So yeah, MBraining coaches will be able to advertise themselves on there. Can I just do a bit of a sell of MBraining Global? Oh my word.
Please.
The guy that developed it is a friggin' IT genius. And it's got its own mini Facebook group. It's got its own blog posts. It's got its own kind of Hootsuite version where you can moderate your social media through it. It's going to have a learning platform, and it's linked to Coco, which is a global coaching platform where huge companies register to look for coaches. And now MBraining coaches are going to be searchable on that too. You heard it here. That's the first time I verbalized that as a whole thing. We've not launched yet. We're just about to.
Okay, this is exciting, and thank you, because my business brain was going to message you afterwards and go, please tell me this is going to be a paid membership, because
it's absolutely going to be a paid membership. I've given of my time for 8 years voluntarily and as an altruistic project. But this has literally cost me thousands of dollars, and so I have to recoup that cost.
Absolutely, and I think that it's, just from my perspective, running memberships, and there's I want to join things where there's a little skin in the game. I want to be a part of something. I'll be joining. I can't wait. This is so exciting. Okay, I'm super excited. Okay, so Suzanne, I will, when I post this video, we'll pop the links underneath.
Yeah.
Just before we head off, what is one can we finish by sharing with folks, what is one small thing that people can do to begin connecting to beyond their head brain?
Yeah. So it's about finding that still small voice within. And because it often is a small voice, you need quiet. So you need to quieten down that racing head brain And the way we do that is through a simple breathing that comes from HeartMath and Steve Elliott. And it's a simple 6 second in, 6 second out, 6 second in, 6 second out, no pauses, no gaps. Holding a beautiful sense of appreciation or gratitude at heart level. So feeling it, not thinking it. And just do that for 2 or 3 minutes. And then just as I have now, put your hand on your heart and ask your heart in the softest, gentlest voice, like you would a young child that you love dearly, what's truly important to you here? And your heart will speak. And it will speak in its heart's voice, or it may give you a metaphor or an image or a feeling, but it will speak to you. And it will probably be saying, thank God you're talking to me at last. I've been here all this time and you've not been listening. And the same at gut level, put your other hand on your gut and drop all your attention and focus into the gut as you breathe beautifully and balanced, and ask your gut what it deeply needs. And again, it will answer you. So that's a very, very basic entry level to begin to get that convincer that there's something here. And what I'd say to people from my own experience over the last couple of years is trust it. Trust your own wisdom. Don't let anybody with a different agenda who wants to dominate or self-gain tell you anything different. They don't know you. They are manipulating you to get their own way. Trust your own inner wisdom. And find an MBIT coach to do a beautiful, deep session on that, to reintroduce yourself to yourself.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been an absolute privilege to
My
talk
pleasure.
to you today. Stop our recording now, everyone.